Boxing truth here. I had to talk a little bit about Deontay Wilder, as it appears Chris Arreola is going to be the next opponent. Nothing finalized, but according to writers, rumors, that's been Arreola's been the guy that's been select. That's going to be the next guy to challenge Wilder for his WBC strap, as perhaps he is going to be the next opponent, as Wilder is going to get a quick turnaround, perhaps fight on July 16th in his hometown, in his home state of Alabama. And what is continuing to be the same story for Deontay Wilder. 36 professional bouts, and the boxing fans are still waiting for a real fight. A fight where he's going to be fighting some worthy contenders, some real opponents, and Wilder has yet to provide that to the boxing world. I am losing more and more respect for Deontay Wilder with each passing day. And it has to do with his behavior, his antics prior to the Povetkin fight. Also, what went down after Povetkin tested positive for meldonium for very, very small traces of amount that can't give you an advantage in the ring for that type of amount that was in the system. Since Povetkin has passed his tests, nothing has come up. He's provided negative tests ever since, as the WBC is going to announce the ruling at the end of this month, as they will determine the fate of Alexander Povetkin or whether he will remain as the mandatory challenger. But it's hard to dismiss Wilder's behavior, insisting on VADA testing before the Povetkin bout, something he never asked any of his opponents to participate. There wasn't any drug testing for his fight with Arthur Spilka. Of course, he's always had his suspicions about Povetkin, as well as he's had suspicions about Shannon Briggs. A while back, I made a video that Wilder was showing fear of Povetkin, asking for this stringent type drug testing that he's never used or never asked any of his previous opponents to use. Pretty much complimenting Povetkin indirectly that he was concerned about Povetkin's strength and his knockout power, as he was having some pretty impressive performances as of late. But it's just hard to dismiss the antics. You can sense the bitch-made behavior from Deontay Wilder. Even Povetkin can sense it. He even questions that if Wilder ever intended to come to Russia to fight him, because Wilder never flew to Russia to fight him. He never stepped foot in the country of Russia. He was in Sheffield, England, training for the bout before the announcement of Povetkin's drug test. He never stepped foot in Russia. And then for him to head back to the United States before the WBC announced any type of ruling of whether the fight was going to be canceled, postponed, whatever, that told me right there that he never had any intentions to fight, was looking for the simplest excuse, the weakest excuse possible, anything to get out of that fight, because he didn't want to go to Russia to fight Povetkin. And now he's trying to throw obstacles for that mandatory challenge to take place by taking more voluntary defenses, taking more safe fights against an opponent that doesn't deserve it in Chris Arreola, a guy who's done jack shit in quite some time, was recently knocked out by Berman Stavern, couldn't beat Fred Cassidy, arguably lost that fight, was lucky to get a draw, went life and death with an untested heavyweight who hasn't stepped up in his entire professional career in Travis Kaufman. Got dropped. Initially escaped with a split decision win, but then it was overturned as Arreola tested positive for smoking weed. And now Wilder's going to fight him, a guy who's not even rated right now in the top 15 of WC rankings. But don't worry, the rankings will be updated, I believe, next week. I believe by WC, and you're gonna see Chris Ariola's ranking will be, his name will be in the top 15. It'll just magically appear as Ariola served his suspension, which really didn't affect him because he hasn't fought ever since. He served, I believe, I think he got a 3-month suspension or something like that. But it really had no effect on his career because he wasn't going to fight throughout that time period anyways. So, going life and death for Fred Cassidy and Travis Kaufman and testing positive for a banned substance, no matter how minor it is, marijuana, Ariola gets rewarded with a title shot, as he hasn't shown that he's much of a contender these days, getting dropped, getting stopped, going life and death with the type of opponents he's gone life and death with. And this is what Wilder's given us. More safe opponents, more safe voluntary defenses. And the Wilder fanboys are actually defending this fight. Sure, it's okay. Wilder, stay active. Don't sit on the shelf. That's okay. That's cool. It's never good to sit on the shelf. It doesn't help a fighter to be inactive. Just ask Andre Ward for that inactivity. Just ask Mikey Garcia. But sooner or later, you got to fight somebody. In 36 fights into his career, we still haven't yet to see a real fight from Deontay Wilder. I sometimes question the Stavern fight. Stavern didn't. That was the only top 10 opponent he beat. A fight where Wilder was counted out was the underdog. But this is heavyweight boxing. And for some strange reason, Stavern wasn't right physically for that fight. Who knows what happened? Maybe, I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to get into that, but it's just strange. All of a sudden, Stavern was physically messed up for that fight. But Wilder won. He won the title. And he hasn't done jack shit with it since. Has been ducking and dodging his mandatory challenger. Went back to his home state before the WC announced its official ruling about the situation with Povetkin. Not even waiting for an announcement that was going to be postponed or investigated. That just tells me that just tells me everything. I can see the bitch-made behavior. Povetkin senses the bitch-made behavior, questions whether Wilder was ever going to go through with the fight. And now we just have to wait for the ruling at the end of this month by the WBC. And from everything that's been reported, the one-sided biasness of the journalism from the U.S. compared to the other journalism from the other side, you got two sides of the story. But it just seems like perhaps Povetkin will be exonerated. From what I've read, he should be. The levels were so low that he couldn't get an advantage coming into the ring. He also tested negative in his subsequent tests ever since. He's a clean fighter. Well, according to his results and his promoter and Povetkin himself. But everything points to Povetkin being reinstated as a mandatory challenger and still having his date sometime at the end of the year with Wilder in his home country of Russia, where Wilder was still had to travel and go over there and fulfill his mandatory obligation. But that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. What if the WC exonerates Povetkin and keeps him at the mandatory? What's Wilder going to do? He's already threatening litigation for wanting his purse money, $4.5 million, I believe. He wants every cent of it, even though he didn't perform, didn't even didn't even step into Russia. Wasn't even in the country at all. And yet he still wants every cent of that purse. But if he wants it, he's gonna have to come get it. Come and fight Povetkin to get his career high, biggest payday of his career. But it just doesn't seem like it's gonna happen. It looks like Wilder's gonna dump that WC belt in the trash like Riddick Bowe did, and be regarded as one of the biggest bitches in boxing if he does that. But there is a escape route for Wilder if it comes to that situation. According to some whispers, also some writers and sources, Wilder and Fury are in talks, in negotiations for about perhaps later this year. What better way to escape a Povetkin bout? By fighting Tyson Fury if he gets past Vladimir Klitschko next month. I'll believe it when I see it if Wilder was to fight Fury, but that would be the perfect excuse to avoid that fight. Will the WC still sanction that bout and let Wilder keep his title? I don't think so. Lawsuits, litigation will be flying from World of Boxing and Ryabinski. So perhaps Wilder, whether he fights Fury next after Arreola or not, will end up vacating that green belt in order to continue to duck and dodge Alexander Povetkin. But you could say face if he finally takes his first real un-Haymanized fight in fighting the king of the division, a Gypsy King at that, and Tyson Fury. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.